Welcome to Make Your Website Work for You. As usual, I am Yung Tran, and I am the Programs Associate for the National Asian Pacific Islander American Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship, also known as National ACE. I'm excited to be here today to be your Google expert. Hopefully, there'll be no technical issues moving forward. These workshops are designed to teach you how to take advantage of all the free resources Google has to offer and to take your business to the next level. These workshops are intended for entrepreneurs, business owners, and startups. We're proud to host these webinars as part of our API Strong series. Today, we're going to learn how to create a great website that supports your business goals. Whether you're launching a new website or spicing up an old one, this workshop will help you learn how to make the most out of your site. So let's get started. I'll just take off my screen, take off my video for a second. And today, let's talk about today. We know that today more than ever, small businesses are getting online and connected with consumers and drive up sales. After all, many of us are connecting from businesses from our homes now. Hopefully, we'll be transitioning out of that, but most people plan to stay conducting business online, making purchases online. So it's important to make sure that your website is updated with all the critical information, news, announcements, and whatnot that is affecting the operation of your business and your customers. So let's talk about web design. Web design is more about looking pretty. It's about a number of different things that I will get into shortly. But we have to think about the graphics, the functionality, content, layout, colors, fonts. You have to make a lot of decisions on how you want to brand your business and brand your product. Most websites have the header on the top. You have your logo on the top left of the website. And on the bottom is the footer, which has important links and then contact info, copyright info. On the top, maybe right next to the header or below the header, you'll have your navigation, and it's usually horizontally across the site. That tells you where to go, your home, contact information, products, etc., etc. And as you're looking at the design, we want to make sure there's some consistency across the colors, the fonts, the styles, and the type of content. And so as you're building your site, there's two ways of doing this. One, you can build it from scratch. Usually that's done by a developer or someone that's super tech savvy. Most of us, like me, we're using content management systems. For short, that's CMS. And examples of these content management systems are Shopify, WordPress, Squarespace, etc. So whatever you're using to build your site, whatever is more comfortable for you, go ahead and sign up and make those purchases so that you can build your site. As you're building your site, you can also hire someone to do it for you, especially if you're not too tech savvy. I think an important note to make is that if you do hire someone to make your site, have them teach you how to edit it. Because as you're moving forward with your business and things change and things happen, you or a staff member should know how to edit the site when needed. And so the initial buildup is one thing, but the continuation is another thing. And we need to make sure that we are able to continue updating the website. And so let's get into what's a great website. A great website is goal-oriented, it's organized, it's useful, it's functional, it's intuitive, and it's search-friendly. And during this webinar, I am going to get into all these little points so that we can break down how to ensure that your website is a great website. So let's move to making it goal-oriented. Goal-oriented. So why do we want a website? What is the goal behind the website? We need to make sure that we have goals so that we can track the success of those goals. As business people, we don't want to make useless investments. We don't want to waste our time. We want to do things with intention. And so building a website, we have to do it with intention. So what do you want from the site? You want to build a brand. You want to generate leads, make more sales, re-engage customers, attract employees to work for you, and provide support for your customers. You can also think about ways that you want to go. Ways you want to grow. And to be able to track that growth, we need to start defining those goals. So as you decide on what goal you want to make, we also need to decide on who your target audience is. I've spoken about this before in my previous webinars. We want that customer persona, that ideal customer, or the general customer that purchases your products, in case you don't know who that ideal customer is. And there are a number of different ways to figure out who is that ideal customer. But for now, we're just talking about your target audience. As you're thinking about that customer persona, we also want to think about how they might act, how they might think, how they might live. And when we're thinking about those things, we can better build our website to fit them and help them. And so, yes, we want everybody and anybody, but that's just way too big of a reach. As we narrow it down, we can find somebody better than nobody. And as we're seeing the world from their lens and understand their emotions, we're building that website to fit them. Once you build the website to fit them, we want to look at how to measure that success. If you don't track and measure your website performance, you won't know how to make improvements. And improvements should be based on data. So here's another way of thinking about it. Let's say you made some modifications to your bicycle to make it go faster. If you don't know the max speed before the modifications, how do you know it worked? Similarly, you need to track and measure online success so that you know what kind of improvements to make. You should always be testing. There are a lot of different ways to do it. You can start simply by asking your customers, how did they find you? Ask them when they call you on the phone or when they visit you at their store, when you're responding to their email. Pop them a quick question, how did they find you? And then once you get that information, you can start tweaking, making those fixes. There are other ways you can track your customers, like, inserting a trackable phone number to your ads. That way, whenever someone calls you, you can tell where they come from, which ad it came from. You can track the number of emails and the number of form submissions from your website. If you have an e-commerce website, you can track sales. Whatever you're using for analytics, this is what's going to help you the most for your site. And so some website browsers like, Windex, Squarespace, etc., they have their own analytics. Google also has our analytics also. And I actually did a webinar on Google Analytics a couple weeks back. It was very extensive. you should definitely check out the recording of that on our site, exactly where you found the registration for this webinar. You can definitely find the recording of the Google Analytics webinar. But a brief summary of Google Analytics, it's a way for you to learn how people engage with your site, learn which search items drive the most traffic, see the demographic information. That's one of the key things you can get from Google Analytics is the age range of your customers, the gender of your customers, their socioeconomic backgrounds, the location of your customers. All of these are very good information for you to then build your website around the people who make the most purchases. And so that way you can drive up profits. You can also understand your content using Google Analytics because you'll see where people tend to move from one page to another. And you can also see where people disappear, where they decide, oh, I don't want to move forward anymore. And then if there's a certain page where most people leave off before they make a purchase, there might be a problem with that page. And so you might want to improve that page on your website. Okay. And then last thing you can do with Google Analytics is, see what channels drive up the most conversions. And so that might look like they come from Google, they might come from Google search, they might come from YouTube, they might come from a news article, they might come from a partner who introduced it you. We're trying to figure out where they come from so that we can make improvements on it so we can get more. Let me know if I'm talking too fast because I definitely can slow down. But a little more about Google Analytics. You can set up Google Analytics at g.co/analytics. Super quick, super easy. It's fast. They'll teach you how to set it up on your site. There's usually a little code that you can put on the header of your website on the backend. And so follow those instructions, you should be fine. As I mentioned before, Google Analytics can help you figure out your target audience. If you start tracking that data today, you'll be able to collect that data moving forward. And in a couple months, you can reevaluate who is your target audience and what's working and what's not. If you've already been checking this data, you can look at the data now and see what improvements you might want to make. If you aren't checking this data, now is better than never. Start now. Next, let's talk about organization in a great website. And so we talked about the goals and tips for choosing designs. We need to make sure that the information on the site is well organized. Even if you don't have a lot of web pages now, your site should grow over time. That's what we want. That's the plan. And so to be in preparation of becoming bigger in the future, we need to make sure our foundation looks really good, looks really clean, have a framework to set you up for success. And so having an information architecture is a very useful plan to have. It's a really nice practice. An example of this is, let's say you have a jewelry store. Your main page is your home page. Your main site pages might be the About page, the Products page, and the Contact page. Within the Products page, you might have subpages of rings, watches, necklaces. We want those overarching categories to be broad and specific to your product in your store, so that once you get more products, once you get more customers and engagement, you know exactly where to put them, and it's easy to navigate and easy to find. Some tips of organizing your website: make sure that things are short and descriptive. Make sure that names and labels are short and descriptive. And so you don't want a giant paragraph about, pants, just write pants. The most important information, keep the most important information in the main navigation, and keep your site visitors in mind. Where and how would they look for the information? We don't want to get too creative on, doing unique things on your website. If things are too unique and people, don't know how to navigate your site, it actually hurts you more than it helps you. And so let's not try to be too experimental. Keep the general format the same. As I said before, logos on the top left side, you got your header, you got your footer, and you got your navigation. And as we talk about, making sure things are organized, we have to make sure things are useful. And so we need to consider how to create relevant content and experiences, no matter what device your customer is looking at your website on. And so when I mentioned devices, 46% of people say they would not purchase from a brand again if they have a bad or interruptive mobile experience. And so that's almost half of customers saying, hey, if your mobile site is bad, I'm not going to go there again. I'm not going to even think about making a purchase there. If that's the case, you need to make sure that your website looks amazing on the mobile device. And I can talk to you about how to do that very shortly. But right before I talk about that, we have to go over what useful content looks like. Text, it has headers, bullet points, images, photos are very nice. Videos, if you are selling a product, or actually if you're doing anything, you want to have nice videos to kind of give them a taste of what you're offering. If not, then images also do very well. We want to make sure that when we are creating the content, we want to make sure we're putting ourselves in the customer's shoes. And so as a customer, you want things that are quick, you want things that are easy to understand, you want things to be simple, and whatever you're looking for, it should be there and easy to find. And so with Google Trends, sorry, before I get to that, let me mention that when you're in your customer's shoes, you're trying to think about what they're thinking about when they're searching for a product. If, for example, if you're selling shoes that are great for people who tend to hurt their feet often, and your shoe has a special style that helps with people who have foot problems, then you might want to have something that mentions heel pain on your text. You want those keywords to be in your text, on the bulletins, somewhere in the headlines, just somewhere, so that it helps Google find it and then send it to the customer. And so that's why we need to look at Google Trends to see what are the keywords and what can help you get customers to your site. With Google Trends, you can also monitor the popularity of words and the popularity of your brand. And you can also check like how many people search certain words at a certain time. You can find that out at g.co/trends. And definitely take a screenshot of this to do it after the webinar if you so choose. A great website is functional. sorry, a great function, a great website is functional. So what does functionality mean? Functionality means what your websites can do to help customers take action. And so your customers, you want your customers to be able to do things on your site, like search things on your site, fill out an online form, shop online, and also use any tools you might have. The easier it is to use these tools, the better the functionality of your site is, because you're helping your customers do actions. And so how can your website help? I'm giving you two examples here. Let's say, example one, you run a shoe repair business. People can either call or stop by to get quotes on repairs. And so in this case scenario, you don't necessarily have a product, you have a service. And so there might not be a checkout on your site, but you want an option for them to learn more information and to contact you so they can figure out if they can get a quote, if it's affordable for them, if they want to be potential customers. And so in scenario one, you might want to create an online form so people can request a quote on your site. On this form, you might have them fill out their contact information so you can call them back. You might have them you might have a Dropbox for pictures of the shoe so that you can check to see how much repair it needs to be done. You might have a description section where they can explain to you what the damages look like so you can figure out how much it might cost them. These are ways to engage with your customers, super functional, super relevant to the business so that you can conduct business. In scenario two, let's say you run a cafe and many people call in to ask about a number of different things, the menu, the deliveries. You realize that a lot of people are asking the same thing, but it's taking up a lot of your time and also your employees' time, picking up the phone calls, answering these questions, when what you really want to do is answer questions about making purchases and also taking orders about those purchases. And so to make it quicker, easier for you and your customer and your employees, maybe consider publishing a frequently asked questions Q&A on your website. This web page might help you save a ton of time, because a lot of times before they call to ask a question, they might look around your site to see if they can figure it out first. And so in that case, you might want to publish that page. This is all about functionality. This is all about how to help your customers do better and create and to take actions on your site. Here are a couple of do's and don'ts on functionality. One, only add useful things. That might be kind of like a no-brainer, but sometimes people add things just because they think it might help, but they don't know whether it might help. In that case, you definitely want to ask your customers if this is something they would like, or if it's already a problem, you fix that. But if you're just going, oh, I don't know, let's try this, let's try that, you know, those might not be the most functionable additions to your site. If you have any forms for them to fill out, you have to make sure that it's short, easy, quick, so that they don't feel like they're spending forever on it. And then lastly, make the checkout easy. The easier the checkout is, the quicker they are to move along that process and making those purchases. A couple of don'ts. You don't want any automatic pop-ups. I don't know about you, but when I click on a site and I'm looking for something and I immediately get a pop-up on my face, I get distracted and then I exit out and I forget what I was there for in the first place. We don't want that to happen for you. So let's avoid any automatic pop-ups. Another thing is don't autoplay any videos with sound. Some websites might autoplay videos, but make sure you keep the video on mute so that you give your customers an option to turn on a sound if they want to. Again, some customers, when they click on a site and then immediately they hear talking, voices, a video, they X out that site immediately because they weren't here for the video. They were here for some information and then they were bombarded by a video. And so we do not want any videos with sound to automatically play. And then last thing, never sacrifice user experience for design. I think that's an issue for some of us who are more art friendly and we want to make everything nice and beautiful. But as a customer, sometimes they get lost, sometimes it gets confusing. We want to make sure that it's about function over form. And so in that case, let's do the art projects for another time. Make sure that it's the most functional for your customer. So we've covered some big picture topics, including goals, organization, functionality. Now let's look at how easy it is to navigate your site. So this section focuses on design, but not how pretty it looks. It's about how intuitive it is. And a great site is intuitive. In other words, does your site design naturally lead visitors through a process on the site? Can visitors use your site without struggling or even thinking too hard? Is it easy to accomplish tasks? The more simple the design is, the better it is for them. And so it has to be straightforward, no confusing pages, no confusing navigation, just intuitive. And so let's look at a few things to consider when building a great experience for your visitors. Tip 1, navigation. If you have any selected elements, we want to make sure those are highlighted so that they know they can select those things. And so here you see filtered by and sorted by. These things should be highlighted. These should be straightforward. They can see it. It's not hidden. It's right in their face. It's easy to navigate. Also, make sure there's plenty of spaces for people to click and tap. Because when you're on your phone, we don't want buttons to be too close to each other because they might click on the wrong thing. Again, we want to make this the easiest experience for the customer as possible. And then ensure any call to action can be tapped also. And so what does that mean is if you say, let's say, I'm trying to make up something on the top of my head and I'm failing to do so. But let's say you're saying buy now, and buy now isn't a button, but it's a call to action. We want to make sure it is a button. And so when you say buy now, they can click on it and buy now. Straightforward? I hope so. Tip 2, shopping. Help users backtrack or continue shopping after a break. And so an example of this is when, let's say you're buying some clothes online, instead of clicking on the product and going to a different page and then the checkout, there might be a quick button that says just add to cart. That way they can just go immediately back to shopping. We want them to spend more time shopping. We want them to make purchases, but we also want to encourage them to make more purchases while they're at it. And so the easier the process is, the better it is. And also as they're shopping, we want a recommendation section where they can see similar products. I don't know about you, but when I'm online, I'm shopping and I'm looking for maybe two specific items, I look down and I see the recommendation section and I'm like, oh my God, I need that too. And then I end up in with maybe 9 different things in my cart. That's what we want. We want to encourage more purchases. Also with restaurants, food, most big restaurants, corporations, when you're purchasing a product, I mean, when you're purchasing, let's say, wings and French fries or pizza, right before you click pay, they pop up a recommendation where it's like, do you want more cheese on that pizza? Do you want more sauces? Do you want dessert? These are different ways to encourage those customers to add on to their purchases as they're shopping with you. And so these 2 tips are super good for you to help your customers make more purchases. Tip 3, and probably the most important tip, is the checkout. We want to reduce as many steps as possible because the longer the process is, the more time you're giving the customer to decide that they don't want it anymore. And so a helpful way to help customers ease through that process is to show visitors their progress. And so as you can see here, you see number 1 is the email, number 2 is the shipping, number 3 is additional information. The customer sees this, they know that they have 2 more steps until they can make the purchase. Sometimes when the customers don't see the steps, they don't know how long the process is going to take, they kind of give up on the product, and so they just walk away. We do not want that to happen, and so it helps if you add the progress for them. Also offer guest checkout in case they don't want to sign up to hold an account on your site. I know we want more information on our customers, and I know that you want them to have an account on your site, but some customers, come and go, and if they're willing to make a purchase without signing up for an account, then take that sale, offer the guest checkout and just take the sale. And then last thing is ways of payment. And so online, most people pay with card, but nowadays there's a new form of payment, and it's digital wallets. Some people might use Apple Pay, PayPal, Venmo, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, these new different types of digital wallets. We want to make sure that we're making it as easy as for them to pay and giving them more options to pay. And so a new thing some existing websites might want to add is to make sure that people can pay with their digital wallets, because that's definitely something that has been up and coming, and it's rising, and more and more people are using their digital wallets. Lastly on this section is a responsive design. This is where I am going back to the mobile section. As I mentioned before, we want things to look beautiful on not only on the desktop, but also on a mobile device. And so Google has this great tool called Chrome Inspector. This tool helps you see the compatibility of your site on all different types of devices. And so if you want to take a second to screenshot it, you can. I'll give you like 5 seconds. Oh, wait, sorry, not this one, the next one. I'll give you 5 seconds to screenshot this one. And so how to do this is you visit your site from a Chrome browser window, right-click and select Inspect. Click the icon for Toggle Device Toolbar. Use the responsive dropdown to select the device type, and it will actually show you what it looks like on a mobile device. And so I can actually show you right now using our site as an example. So this is the National Asian Pacific American Leadership site, and it looks beautiful. I'm on Google Chrome. If I right click, there's this inspect button right here at the very bottom. I'm not sure if you can see it, but if you do it, you'll see it. This is the inspect. I know it looks a little scary, but all you're looking for is this button right here, this screen and phone, the toggle device toolbar. You click on it. Well, sorry. You click on it and then you see, look, this is what it looks like when you're on the phone. And up here on the dimensions, I can, well, dimensions responsive, it will look like this on your end, but you can pick on the different phone types to see what they look like. You know, a Galaxy X5, an iPhone 6, 7, or 8 Plus. And you can see what it looks like for your customers on their phone. And then this way you can help them. I mean, this way you can see what looks good, what looks bad, where you need to improve. Is your site quick? Is it slow? You know, I'll do it on here too. Inspect the page. I am on the phone and I'm on an iPhone, and I can see up here we have our beautiful National ACE Grow with Google page. I see some upcoming events, and if I keep scrolling down, I see the watch again workshop recordings. You know, it looks great. The footer looks great. This way you can check on how your website looks for your customer. And then we're back to the desktop. And so going back to our webinar, that's how to use the Chrome inspector. And so screenshot the instructions if you need it. And then we are going to talk about how to make your website search friendly. This is the last thing I'll be going over. The last section I'll be going over. And now that you've invested the resources to build this website, you want to make sure that they can find the website when they search online. And so the progress of helping websites increase its visibility on search engines is search engine optimization, or SEO. I've mentioned this before. I've also did a short webinar on search engine optimization and how to get your how to get your business on Google. But we'll briefly go over it here. 70% of smartphone owners turn to search to first address their immediate needs. And so whenever someone has a question, what do? They pull out their phone. They type it into Google and then they find an answer. And so when they are searching for something where your product is the answer, we want to make sure that you show up. And so what does that look like? This is familiar to a lot of us. You have your search inquiry, you have your ads, the organic search, and the business profile. We want to make sure your business profile shows up. If you set that up already, great. If you don't know how to set it up, please review our previous webinars on how to get your business on Google. Text ads And organic search. If you want to increase those things, you can. I also did a webinar on ads, and so review that when you have a chance. But again, we want to make sure that your website is appearing when people are searching for the relevant terms. And so behind the scenes, this is how Google works. Google's web crawlers just searches through every single thing on Google, and they take the keywords and they put it into a little index. When you search for an item, Google's algorithm searches in this index for the information. In a split second, Google determines what the most relevant ones, what aren't very relevant, and then gives the customer a result. In the result, it'll be ranked by relevance. And so there are actually ways to increase your ranking on Google search. And there's also ways to just pay for ads so that you're at the very top. And so again, this is something that I went over in a different webinar, so I won't touch up on too much here. But a brief overview about it is that a great way to increase your ranking on Google is to make sure that your website is fast. If your website is slow, people will go away. So you need to make sure that your website loads quickly so people stay on. To test that, you can go to g.co/testmysite. You also want useful content on your site because it helps the Google bots figure out what's on your site so that they can send it to whoever needs it. And then lastly, you need to make sure all your links are connected. So whatever's relevant, whatever's for the customer, and whatever is, I guess, the best navigation for your customer to get to the product, you need to make sure it's connected from Google and your site. You also want page titles and descriptions to have those keywords. The information architecture is great. You want, as we mentioned before, you want your website to be organized so Google can see and understand your site. Google looks through your site. Understand that Google looks through your site. And so the more simple it is and the more keywords you use, Google can lead your customers to that site. And then last but not least, you should have a design for the desktop and the mobile phone or an iPad or whatnot, because people will be looking at your site through different types of devices, and you need to make sure it works on all of them. Another tool from Google that can help you monitor, maintain, and troubleshoot your site's presence on Google search results is Google Console. If you haven't heard of Google Console, it's a super easy to use free tool from Google again. It basically helps you make sure that you are on Google and you're working with Google to make sure that your site is on the very top or at least relevant. And so with Google Console, Google will tell you where, I'm sorry, Google will tell you if they can find things, if they are confused. You can also search on traffic data with, I'm sorry, you can view Google search traffic data for your site. And so what are the key things people search where your site appears? And if Google has any issues with your site, Google will tell you by giving you email alerts. And so Google Search Console is a great tool to have that communication with Google to make sure that your site is top tier. Signing up for Google Console, again, is super easy. G.co/Google Console. Add a website property. Tell Google which pages to crawl on by updating your sitemap. And so the Google box will go in, look through your site, and help people find you. Google Console also has features like a performance report, how your site performs on Google search, what ranking you are. Use URL inspector to check a page on your site to learn how Google sees it. And then mobile usability, Google will tell you what pages are compatible, what pages are not, so that you can fix these things. And so this is a great free tool you can use to help your site. They all work together. Google My Business, YouTube, Google Search, Google Ads. These are all different tools to help people get to your site so that they can know about your product and make those purchases. So what does next steps look like? You can start by making a list of business goals that you want to support with your website. If you're building a new site, choose a design that works on all browsers and devices. If you've had your site for a while, check to see how it performed on all the devices, especially on mobile. Third, create or recreate a plan for your content, your website's information architecture. Organization will help human visitors and search engines navigate your website more easily. Once you've had your plan, start adding that content. The more often you can publish useful or original content on your site, the better. Because Google looks at those things. When was the last time you updated that site? Think about how your websites can offer functionality that supports your business goals before investing the time and resources building a custom tool. It's worth checking to see if existing software can be bought or licensed on your site first. So there's just so many different products, so many different softwares and licenses that you can get online. You don't have to build them from scratch. You can just purchase them. And so see what works best for your site. And last but not least, be search engine friendly. If search engines can't find your website, potential customers will also have a difficult time finding your site. And as always, I want to go through a couple of resources I have. Ooh, I only have 6 more minutes. Let me skim through this. We have business and marketing lessons at g.co/premier. So quick, easy lessons on your phone. Learn whenever you have a minute free. There are practical, personalized next steps to help you help your business. We also have quick video tips for small businesses. And so you can go at g.co/grow/quick help, where you can watch short videos and learn how to use Google tools. And so instead of sitting through a long webinar like this one, and you just have one specific question, you can go to this site to get those questions asked, a frequently asked questions tool. You can continue your education with Grow with Google and National ACE. Register for a free webinar. Well, all the webinars are free. But this is to enhance your digital skills and to grow your business. You can register on these workshops at bit.ly/ace-gwg for Grow with Google. And Grow with Google also gives free online trainings for teachers and students, local businesses, job seekers, and developers. And so whatever you need, Grow with Google has those trainings available for you. And so thank you for your time and thank you for being here. I will take 2 questions and I'll answer them really quickly. And so as a business owner, is it better to create my own site or is it better to hire someone? As I mentioned before, if you're not very tech savvy, I recommend hiring someone to do that initial build up. Starting it is definitely a little harder than continuing it, but once it's up, all you have to do is maintenance. And when it comes to maintenance, you can ask the person you hire to teach you how to make those edits and those changes, how to go into the back end of the website so that you can update your website when needed. That way, you kind of hit two birds with one stone. You get your website up and you have a mini teacher to teach you how to use it. Second questions. It's more if I have so this person provides a service, not necessarily a product. How do I sell online? I think it really depends on your type of service and the prices. As I mentioned before, if it's something that you have to consult with them first, you might want to have a form or a phone number link so that they can directly call you or fill out that form to send those pictures and descriptions so you can get started on a quote and call them back or have a conversation with us. Or if you have standardized services, like let's say you're a massage parlor and you know that 60-minute massages or $60, right? In those cases, you can have the product, well, the service title, description. Descriptions are really good for service products. You'll have your description, the price, and then they can purchase it online and then show you in person about the service they have purchased. Or if you're an electrician, then you're coming in knowing sorry, not an electrician, but if you're offering a service where you're coming into their house, then you know what they purchase and how much they purchase for. And so that is it. Wrapping up again, thank you so much for joining me here today. You can sign up for more trainings at the National ACE Small Business Recovery Resource Center at www.acesmallbusiness.org. You can find recordings of our previous websites on our Grow with Google section. You can also sign up for next week's training on how to use how to use YouTube to grow your business. And thank you for joining us today. We are AAPI Strong.